There are moments in parenting a PDA high needs child when it doesn't just feel hard, it feels like your life is shrinking. Okay, like your world is getting smaller, like there's no room left for you. Like every part of the day is about meeting your child's needs while your own get quietly pushed aside. And then at some point, a familiar thought creeps in. What about me? If you've ever felt trapped between your child's nervous system and your own, if you've ever noticed resentment, grief, or despair bubbling up and wondered, is this ever going to change? You're not alone. In this episode, I want to share the one question that completely changed how I experienced parenting my PDA child. Not because our challenges disappeared, but because my relationship to those challenges then changed. Okay, we'll talk about how shifting the question we ask ourselves can pull us out of survival and victimhood, and how focusing on what we are learning, not just what we're losing, creates meaning, purpose, and how this doorway helps us move towards post-traumatic growth. Okay, so this isn't just about silver linings or forcing positivity. It's about finding your power, your agency, and your becoming right inside the hardest moments. So let's dive in. Okay, so there are moments in this parenting journey when it doesn't just feel hard, right? It feels like life is closing in on you. So this past holiday season was one of those times. Okay, my son's caregiver, someone he is deeply attached to and helps me so much because I can get breaks then, has been away for one whole month. And when she's gone, his anxiety rises sharply. Okay. He clings to me. He won't let me out of his sight. And any mention of me working sends him into a panic. And when he's with me, he perseverates constantly. Okay. You're not leaving, right, mommy? You're not going anywhere, right, mommy? You're staying right here, right, mommy? I mentioned getting a massage because I've been working so hard in the house, and something that usually helps me to regulate my nervous system and helps all the tight muscles to let go. And he completely lost it. So my days became intense, my nights became later, and I needed more sleep. And my mornings, usually the one small pocket of time that's just mine, started disappearing. It felt like mornings and nights were being squeezed tighter and tighter, like my world was narrowing. And this happens whenever I spend long stretches with my son without any real breaks. So aside from a short daily walk every day, which is like usually a non-negotiable. I do what I can, okay? I do lots of micro moments of regulation and tiny little pockets of rest, okay? And still, that familiar feeling does rise up inside of me. What about me? Okay. So then, on Christmas Day, that feeling collided with this old feeling of loneliness. Okay. My husband went to his family's gathering. My son and I stayed home, and we haven't spent Christmas with extended family for years now. My son has been largely housebound again this past year. And while there has been real progress and gains with him, and while I genuinely enjoy much of my time with him, and it's not like it was before, I also intentionally look for glimmers in our connection. This particular day was heavy. Okay, I became dysregulated. I got upset with him for controlling me so much. And I often joke that I have some PDA traits too, especially around autonomy. But the truth is simpler, okay? Every nervous system needs choice and autonomy to feel safe, okay? And once again, I found myself doing something I've done countless times before. I gave up my needs so my son could meet his needs, okay? Because that's generally how it works. This is why we have a caregiver, because it's a constant, focused on him 100%, and it's pretty hard to meet your own needs. And so the caregiver helps a lot. So, once again, I go into this pattern, and I give up my needs. And when I give him all of me, well, he can eat better, right? He can engage more. He can do things that would otherwise feel impossible. And I know this is the reality for many of us parenting PDA kids whose basic needs can so easily go out the window. So I'm in the trenches with you, and I get how hard this is, right? And it comes at a cost, right? So I push through, I minimize myself, I hold it all in until I can't anymore. Okay. And then, even though it's no longer the rage that was once there, there has been deep healing in my system, I still end up depleted, resentful, and triggered. And later, when I was finally alone, I collapsed into tears. Okay. And that old familiar belief surfaced: no one cares about me or my needs. I'm all alone. Okay. So here's where something different happened, though, right? So I've learned a lot of tools over the years, and this is what I teach to all of the parents that I work with, right? So instead of spiraling, instead of dropping into days of despair and anger or victimhood, like I have in the past, I stayed with the feeling, right? The vulnerable feeling that was coming up. I unblended from it. And unblending means that you be with it instead of fully taken over by it, right? So you be with it. And I was with this feeling, and I spoke to myself kindly, and I soothed this loneliness inside of me. I soothed the despair that felt like, what about me and my needs? Okay. And then through this, as I stepped into more of who I truly was and didn't identify so much with these emotions inside of me, then I felt clarity. Okay. That this was an old pattern. I've gone into this pattern many times before, and there was still something here to learn, right? So in the past, I would have said, oh, this is happening again. I'm never going to change. This is never going to change. But here I got clarity. This is coming up again because there's something more to be learned here. So I asked myself the question I now return to again and again. What do I need to learn from this that I haven't yet learned? Okay. That single question shifted everything. Okay. It pulled me out of the trauma vortex, out of the sense that this was just another loss, and back into agency. It reminded me that when patterns repeat, it doesn't mean I'm failing, okay? It means there's another layer of growth available that I haven't yet learned what I need to learn from this. And I would say that there has been many learnings from this, but there's more here now, right? So what came through was this: there is still room to find more self-care inside a situation that feels like it has to be either him or me, but both of us can't coexist. Okay. So there's still more learning here. So the next day, I didn't overhaul my life, but I made small, compassionate shifts. Okay. I found little ways to rest beside him while meeting my needs instead of pushing through and getting stuff done. I allowed myself to exist with him instead of disappearing for him. And once again, I remembered this is not just loss. There is something to be gained here, okay, from this pain and this journey. There's something to be gained here, and I'm not quite done yet learning how to give myself what I need and take care of me inside a situation that easily makes me feel like I have to give myself up for my son to be okay. Okay. So this question is so important for parents of PDA and high needs kids. Okay. I believe we're all on a hero's journey. Okay. We're all on the hero's journey. This path is hard. It is grueling. Okay. It is not for the faint of heart. And each one of us is asked to go far beyond the norm, to find our way through pain and suffering rather than around it. Okay. And to keep going even when there is no clear end point in sight. And every true hero's journey involves moving through hardship, okay, and overcoming that hardship and getting to the other side, right? Winning at life. But here's the thing: the ending that we are often taught to expect of this hero's journey is the wrong one, in my opinion. For parents of PDA and high needs children, this journey is not about the day our child is suddenly okay and regulated and independent and life becomes easy, okay? Because that was the day I was waiting for a long time. And it certainly is not about the day we stay calm through every storm, because that expectation is neither realistic nor human, okay? Those stories keep us trapped, okay? Our real hero's journey is this: learning how to grow, awaken, and reclaim our power within ongoing challenge. Okay? It is about discovering who we are beneath survival, beneath the trauma vortex that tells us this will never end. You are trapped. You are losing everything. Okay? This is where the questions that we ask ourselves matter. Okay? What is this here to teach me? How am I growing and changing because of this? Okay. What am I meant to learn from this experience? Okay. So these questions do something profound. Okay. They pull us out of victimhood. They restore meaning. They reconnect us to choice, agency, and purpose. They help us feel that our pain is not meaningless. Okay. That there is gain alongside the grief, and that we are becoming more of who we are truly meant to be. When we stay stuck in the belief that this life is only something that's happening to us, we remain trapped in the trauma vortex, and no one wants to live there, okay? It is a painful, powerless place to be. But when we begin to feel and acknowledge the gains of our experience, how we are learning, growing, and changing, then we shift, okay? We move from the trauma vortex into the healing vortex, from victimhood into empowerment, okay? From feeling trapped into feeling alive and engaged in our own becoming. Okay, so I want to share with you, what this past year has taught me, since we're on this topic of learning and growth and gaining from this hard experience. Okay, so this past year of parenting my PDA high needs child has been one of the most challenging and most transformative years of my life. Okay, here are 5 of the biggest things I've learned, and I would say I'm still learning, right? There's layers upon layers there can be, right? So number 1, my needs matter too, even when my child needs so much, okay? So for a long time, it felt like there was only room for one of us. If my son's needs were met, mine had to disappear. This year has taught me that while his needs are real and significant, my needs don't become irrelevant just because his are intense. And when I consistently abandon myself, I eventually become depleted, resentful, and dysregulated, which doesn't help either of us. So learning to honor my needs and small and creative, and I emphasize creative because I've had to become really creative to honor my needs in little ways, okay? Not in big, long stretches, although sometimes that's needed too, but little ways, honor my needs, nervous system safe ways, that has become essential, okay? Not perfect, not ideal, right? Because my ideal would be like I'd have a lot more time to rest in my day, but enough to remind my system that I exist too, right? So that I don't constantly activate the old wound of giving up my authenticity of who I am and what I need, right? I exist too, and I deserve the same care that I give to my son. Okay, so number 2 learning, allowing what is. Okay, this softens resistance and brings choice back online. So much of my suffering has come from and has not come from what's actually happening and what is in front of me, but it comes from resisting what's happening in front of me. Okay, so when I fight reality, my nervous system locks into survival. The things like what goes through my mind is this shouldn't be happening. It has to be different. I can't handle this. But when I practice allowing what is, even when I don't like it, okay, something shifts. Allowance, I want to mention, like, allowing what is, it doesn't mean that you're approving of it or you're condoning it, right? Or that you're just giving up, like, forget it, just give up, you know? It means acknowledging reality as it is right now. Okay, this is here. It's here right now. So can I just allow it to be here and let go of resistance to it? And then from that place, choice does return, right? And the nervous system needs choice to feel safe. And it helps you then to become more flexible to ride the waves of not only the hard feelings, but also make room for the good feelings too, right? If you can be okay with the hard and allow yourself to feel what's here inside of you and what's happening outside of you, then there's also room to feel all the good feelings. When you can't feel the hard feelings, then the good feelings get buried along with that too. Okay, so number 3 learning. Kind self-talk and self-compassion are non-negotiable. Okay, so this here has deepened my understanding for how I speak to myself in hard moments and how that directly shapes my nervous system. Okay, harshness tightens everything. It keeps the nervous system stuck in survival, right? Yet many of us are like that. Like, think about how driven this is into our culture, okay, and into our programming, conditioning and programming that comes down from generations past, right? But kindness, it softens and steadies and regulates. Okay, so offering myself compassion in the middle of the mess, not after I've handled things well, right, has been essential. So self-compassion, it doesn't change the situation, but it changes how you experience it. It changes your relationship to the situation, and that changes everything. Okay, so number 4, learning, letting go of fear and staying hopeful. Okay, so even when progress looks messy. Okay, so there are many moments in our life that don't look okay from the outside, right? My son has gone many months without showers, irregular sleep, staying up all night, inconsistent hygiene routines, no dentist for 7 years. Okay, no school-based learning for 8 years. Okay, this year has taught me to further loosen my grip on fear. Wow, this has been like a huge learning for me, and I'm still on this journey, okay? Fear pulls me into catastrophic futures, okay? It pushes me into, I have to find a way to take control of this mode. And that energy often sends my child even further into demand avoidance. Okay, so, but hope on the other side, hope anchors me in the present. It opens me up to possibility. Okay, when I help my fear feel safer, um, then I can hold on to hope. Okay, and that hope actually becomes regulating for me. It helps me to regulate. So as I learn how to support my fear within the very real constraints I am living under, I've begun to trust the nervous system process more deeply. I've learned to trust that safety comes first, right? Helping my nervous system feel safe first, and that everything else unfolds in its own time. And the same goes for my son, right? Just keep focusing on nervous system safety for him, and then things start to unfold, and things start to open up, and new possibilities start to open up. Okay, so fear doesn't allow any of that, but really working with your fear, helping it feel safe, helping your nervous system feel safe in the face of these things, helps you to hold on to hope and use hope as a regulating tool, right? And also helps you to land in trust, right? To stay in that feeling of trust, that you trust that things will get better, and trust us so much to quiet and support the fear too. Okay, so number 5 learning is shedding deep conditioning that I didn't even know I was carrying. Okay, so perhaps the most profound learning this year has been realizing just how much conditioning I am actually shedding. Right? The more you become aware, the more you start to realize, oh, this is conditioning too. Oh, that's programming too. That's not truth, right? So there's all these things. There's like beliefs about productivity, beliefs about what success means in life, beliefs about what a good mother looks like, beliefs about worth being tied to my output, being tied to my son's milestones, being tied to appearances and how things look. Okay, so parenting a PDA high needs child has forced me to question so much of what I was taught about life, taught about life, taught about parenting, and taught about myself, right? It has challenged the rules I unconsciously lived by and revealed how deeply these experiences were shaped by survival and not truth. Okay. And in doing so, I become freer. I also believe that as we shed this deeper conditioning, much of it, which is rooted in generational trauma and passed down through families for generations, we are doing more than healing ourselves, okay? We are helping to free our family system. We are loosening patterns that no longer serve us, okay? And in small but meaningful ways, this contributes to creating a world that is more inclusive, more compassionate, and safer for nervous systems like ours, and especially our children's, to exist within. Okay. So it's really all about, moving from why is this happening to who am I becoming? Okay. So when we shift the question from why is this happening to me and my child to what is this here to teach me and how am I growing because of it, the power dynamic changes. Okay. We move out of victimhood and into authorship, out of despair into meaning, out of feeling trapped in survival and into choice. Okay, this is the moment we stop feeling like life is simply happening to us and begin to recognize ourselves as active participants in our own journey. Okay, now that we're in a new year, I want to invite you into a gentler kind of reflection. So take some time to look back in the last year and notice, what have you learned? Okay, not just about your child, because we're always learning so much about our children and our focus tends to be on them, but what are you learning about yourself? Okay, through this journey, what is it teaching you? How does it help you to stretch? Like just take a moment to notice, how have you stretched? How have you softened? How have you reoriented? And how have you grown in ways that you never would have chosen, right? This life puts us on that path. But these ways that you've grown have nonetheless shaped you, and I would say even benefited you in some way. So dig deep on this, because this is so important to recognize this, name it, and then really hold it in your awareness and acknowledge yourself, right? And just as importantly, take time to appreciate yourself. Okay, acknowledge yourself for the deeply hard inner work you are doing, the kind of work that most people are never asked to do, right? Look around you, the world around you. I can tell you there's barely any people I know, outside of the clients I work with who have to go through this kind of experience, okay? So this is the kind of work that requires you to face your own nervous system, your own conditioning and programming, your own fears and your own pain, and still keep showing up with care and intention. Okay? This work matters. It matters for changing generational patterns. It matters for how your child experiences safety and belonging. Okay, and it matters for the kind of world we are collectively creating. Okay, and when we slow down enough to feel the learning and acknowledge the growth, something important happens inside the nervous system. The gain begins to register alongside the loss. Okay, and in these moments, we begin to realize that we truly are the hero of our own journey, not because the path is easy, not because we're perfect on this path, okay, but because we are meeting it with awareness, courage, and choice, okay? And that is what allows pain to transform. not into something that never hurt, but into something that carries meaning. Okay. And that is the shift into post traumatic growth. Okay. So let's look at an intention for the year ahead because I like to set intentions. I think it's very important. So instead of resolutions that sometimes feel pressured and ask more of you, what if you set an intention for what you want to continue learning, right? So when you set an intention, it helps you focus your energy on what matters most, right? And if you name your intention every morning that you wake up, it helps your brain, your nervous system, your whole being to focus your energy on what matters. So I like intentions. So ask yourself this in order to help you develop your intention. What is life inviting me to develop through this experience? Okay. And or what do I want to grow into more fully this year? Like what qualities do I want to grow more? How, in what ways do I want to grow and develop? What do I want to grow and develop more fully this year? Okay. And what kind of support do I want to offer myself as I continue this journey? Because supporting yourself is huge on this path. It's so important. Okay. So, when we consciously choose what we are learning and becoming, our nervous system receives an important message that there is gain here, there is meaning here, and that this is worth it. Okay? Not because it's easy, but because of who you are becoming along the way. At some point, when the gains become bigger than the losses, you're winning at life. So if this spoke to you, please comment, please share with other parents. Maybe there's another parent who needs this messaging too. And I hope you are able to create an intention and carry it forward with you. And I hope you're able to recognize all of the ways you are growing and developing on this journey and acknowledge yourself for it.